Is there a hidden metabolic syndrome, a serious medical condition that happens even before your glucose levels get out of hand? Well, yeah, there is, and we're going to talk about that today. I wanted to just mention this for our African friends. This was left under that test Benedict and I did on 3 different types of cereal, and we talked about that video about how that I wasn't sure if Africans and if Nigerians could get hold of chia seeds. Chia seed can make a great cereal. Chia seed, throw in some peanuts. He calls these tiger nuts. I think that would be his word for peanuts, and maybe a strawberry or a few blueberries, and you've got yourself a cereal. So he says there are chia seeds, flax seeds, and coconut flakes, and tiger nuts in Nigeria, or peanuts. I know there are peanuts. I bought them myself, and on the streets. A lot of times you stop at a stoplight, and there'll be young people with bags of peanuts, little small bags, and you pay very little for them. And so I know there are peanuts in Nigeria, what we call peanuts, and Benedictus sometimes calls them granuts, and this guy I think is calling them tiger nuts, but basically the same thing. So he says people doing keto in Nigeria often use coconut or tiger milk, nut milk as an alternative. He says almond flour is rather high-priced, coconut flour is cheaper. So, the rule basically is you do what you have to do. If you can't afford something, then you can't afford it. But some cases, it's not that people can't afford to buy some of these foods. It's just that it would cost a little more, and they're not sure if it's really worth the price. So let me give you a word of encouragement. It's worth the price. There's no price for your health. And so if you can get them, get them. If you live in a village and there's nobody selling flaxseed in your village in Africa or in India, then when you go to the big city, you can probably find them. So go and buy a whole big sack full of chia seeds or peanuts or whatever you need when you go to the big city and bring it home with you. Do whatever you have to do to provide yourself with foods that work. And the reality is this: we only have one body. And it cannot be replaced. When your body wears out, it wears out, and you can't replace it. This microphone right here, this cost me about $20. I hate to admit that because a lot of people think you're more impressive if you have a big $500 microphone. I've got a $20 microphone here. It looks nice, only costs $20, but it works for me. But the nice thing about it is if it ever goes bad, I can easily replace it. No big deal. This body can't replace it. If it goes south, if everything stops working, I'm done for. I'm done for on this earth. There are no body replacements. I know you can get body parts sometimes replaced and get a transplanted kidney or whatever, but when your body goes bad, you're in trouble. So take care of it and spend a little money on it. Don't spend all your money on toys and fun little things when your health is on the line. All right, here is someone who asked, can you do a video on the hidden metabolic syndrome? In other words, when you go and get your glucose checked, the doctor says it's normal, but it's only because your pancreas is putting out high insulin to bring the glucose down, so the insulin's doing the damage, but all you see is good glucose numbers. Does cutting out carbs solve that problem too, since there's really no way to check insulin levels? Well, this is an excellent question and shows a lot of insight. So he's saying, and he's exactly right, you can go through a period of time, and it could be for 10, 20 years, where your glucose numbers look pretty good, but your insulin is way too high. And so you've got metabolic syndrome. You've got insulin resistance. But up until a certain point, you're managing to keep your glucose down by just your pancreas dumping out more and more insulin and more insulin. So what he's saying is this is a hidden metabolic syndrome. It's not obvious. Your Doctor does a fasting glucose test, sees a 99 or a 102 and says, yeah, you're good. And then he does an A1C and he sees a 5.5 or a 5.6. He says, well, you're getting up there a little bit, but you're okay. You're not diabetic, not even really that close. So it's a hidden metabolic syndrome, and only an insulin test will tell. Now, so he's asking about low carb. Will that help with the insulin levels? The answer is yeah, it certainly will. Insulin is a follower. It follows your glucose levels. When they go up, when they start to rise, your body senses, we've got a problem. Houston, we've got a problem. Glucose is rising. Message to pancreas, dump out more insulin. Pancreas dumps out more insulin. And if that doesn't take care of it, another message is sent. Message to pancreas, dump out still more insulin. Still more insulin is dumped out. And finally, it's all brought under control. So insulin is going to follow glucose. Where glucose goes, insulin will follow. But here's the thing. Insulin is not only a follower. Insulin is a lingerer. What is a lingerer? Well, a lingerer is one who lingers, who hangs around. You know, there's some stores that don't want young people lingering around their stores. It's like, come in, buy your product, and get out. We don't want you to linger. So a linger is someone who hangs around. When I was a pastor of a church years ago, I was always, my family and I were always the last ones out of the church because we'd linger and hang around and talk to people. And anybody that wanted to talk to us would be available. And so, be a lot of talking going on. And finally, we'd usually be the very last ones to leave the church. You might say we were lingerers. We lingered. Well, insulin is a lingerer. That is, your glucose goes up, your insulin follows, and then it brings the glucose down, but the insulin hangs around for a while doing damage of its own, because glucose is not the only damaging factor in diabetes. High insulin can be a damaging factor too. How can you have high insulin? Well, two ways. Number one, it may be coming from your own pancreas, and so that is going to be high insulin because your pancreas is dumping out loads of insulin just to try to keep up with all the carbs you're shoving at it. Or if you're a type 1 and you have to take insulin, or a type 2 and you're taking insulin, you'll have to give yourself more insulin if you eat a high-carb meal. If you're going to eat a spaghetti dinner with a big old monster chunk of bread, and then you're going to have apple pie a la mode afterwards, your pancreas, you're going to have to take a lot more insulin than if you ate a meal that was a steak and a garden salad with a low-carb dressing. So if you're eating high carb, you're giving yourself much more insulin. You have to. Otherwise, you'd get tremendous surges of insulin. So metabolic syndrome. Now, if you bring your diet to a lower carb diet, your body is smart. It knows your pancreas will not have to dump out more insulin and more insulin and more insulin when there's just not that much glucose to deal with. So, if you eat a handful of peanuts and your glucose just kind of bumps up a bit, you're not going to get the message to your pancreas, dump out lots and lots of insulin. We ate a few peanuts. There'll just be a slight release of insulin. Or, if you eat a garden salad or some celery, or there's just all kinds of things. If you eat a hamburger patty but no bun and no ketchup, you won't need much insulin. So yeah, by doing low carb, you'll have lower insulin. And another issue that's involved is trying to reduce the fat in your liver and the fat on your pancreas. And those typically come from intermittent fasting and time-restricted eating. So by doing the low carb, you're keeping your body from building up more fat. But by doing the time-restricted eating and the intermittent fasting, and maybe extended fasting, if it can work for you, then you're not just keeping your body from adding to those reserves of fat, you're actually burning off the fat, and burning the fat out of your liver and getting that liver back to a lean, mean metabolic machine is exactly what we need to do. And that's when you start to notice that your body responds to carbs better than it used to. So the answer to the question is yes. Low carb, time-restricted eating, those are the two most powerful keys to dealing with the hidden metabolic syndrome. Before I let you go, I want to inform you that I do have another YouTube channel. In fact, it actually predates this Beat Diabetes channel. This other channel is called by my name, Dennis Pollock, and it involves short devotional Bible teachings. If you've ever wondered what does the Bible actually say, you can probably learn quite a bit from this channel. The videos are short, usually around 6 minutes, and they cover all kinds of Bible topics. I hope you'll check it out. I'll put a link to this channel in the description. Bye for now. God bless, and see you again soon.